I'm joined this week by Santana and Todd, and I am Dom, subbing in for Adam,
Woo!
who is out packing up his life to move, I don't know how far away. He's going from Kentucky to Louisiana, and then hopefully Maine.
What?
Yeah, nobody's going to get that joke.
Oh, all right, great.
And I think I'm really funny, and nobody else does.
That's all right. We all try.
So yeah, thanks for tuning in. It's gonna be a little bit of a rockier show as it usually is when I host. It always takes me a minute to find my footing. So we're just gonna dive right into it. We do have the return of the Buddha Boxers promo. This time it's buddhaboxers.com/tforce. No code, just good boxers. They're cheap. We have talked ad infinitum about those and everything, so I'm really not going to go into it. But if you want to get yourself a cheap pair, buddhaboxers.com/tforce.
They top notch, Joe.
I get it. Ad infinitum. Haha.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't trying to do that, and I'm really disappointed with myself for doing so.
That's okay.
That was DeClaude's thing. What else do we have going on here? Weekly challenge. You guys, we want you to try and secure Dragon by 10 minutes. Junglers, that's really on you. Call for that shit.
That's also on mid laners for having ward control and lane dominance. So don't mess that up.
It's also on bot laners. Like if you push your opponent out of lane and everything, like that's a good time to go and take Dragon in the early game. Top laners, you're kind of off the hook.
You just maybe make sure you have TP ready to TP fight a Dragon. Although I don't think you're ever doing that at 10 minutes. But hey, why not?
Oh, you could roam down early.
You could,
drag, and then you could TP back to your lane. Some people like to do that.
You could play Shen or GP, so you don't have to do anything. These are all options.
Make your opponent blow their teleport at an inopportune time.
Yep. You could play top lane Azrael and just ult down. That also is a thing.
Top lane, Ezreal, top lane. It's no different than Ezreal jungle, you know.
It's a little different.
It's a lot different, but whatever. He's playing in the jungle now, so might as well take him everywhere else too.
Man, fuck Ezreal jungle. It's no fun to play against.
No fun to play with either.
I do not believe in the 80 carries dominate every role. Please, can we go back in time?
Range is the future, Todd. You have to get on board with this.
Gotta throw it out there. Whale does crush on.
I'm that grandpa who's like, back in my day.
What would happen if they gave Garen a ranged auto? Would you just quit the game?
I mean, depending on what he had to give up, you know, which would probably be everything. So yeah.
Fair point.
Wouldn't be able to do it. All right, we're gonna talk about patch 7.19 today.
Again.
Yeah, this time it's more like breaking it down, what we think about it, you know, the stuff that's changed and now that we've played against or with it. You know, as opposed to just running through the numbers and hoping we get it right.
Yeah. How much have you played on the new patch?
I don't know, 5-10 games over the weekend, and then a handful of games throughout the course of the week. You know, like same amount I always play around this time. So.
How about you, Todd?
I did probably 3 streams, so I would say like at least 10 matches, 10 ranked games in Diamond.
Okay, yeah, it's about what I'm at. I got a couple games in, nothing super exciting, but you know, just enough to get the feel for what's going on right now.
Janna did get hot fixed again. I'm gonna see if I can pull up those numbers real quick.
She got hot fixed while we were podcasting,
yeah.
And then she got hot fixed the next day again.
The second round of nerfs to Janna, they hit her Tailwind passive.
Mm-hmm.
The percentage of bonus move speed dealt as magic damage was changed from 35% to 15, 25, 35 at levels 1, 7, and 13. Zephyr's mana cost was increased by 10 at all levels. Now goes from 50 to 90. And Eye of the Storm's shield was decreased from 80 to 240 down to 70 to 210. So these are pretty substantial nerfs to Janna, and she is still performing reasonably well, all things considered.
Yeah, she's still like top 3 win rate.
She no longer has the absurd 58% win rate that she had like right out of the gate, and that, I mean, you know, that warrants a hot fix. If a champ is just so good that they crush every game.
Yeah, it is worth noting now that I don't exactly like this hotfix change. because now her auto at level 5 deals less damage than it did on the old patch. So it's almost like they're disincentivizing people to attack with Janna because it's doing less damage now.
And you're right, and I agree with that. The same time, it's like, Beaver really went into it last Wednesday and everything. Yeah. They gave her a bunch of range, and it didn't seem like there was any penalty, and she needed to get hit.
I mean, I would have, if anything, I would have done the shield change and maybe shaved off the AD you got on shield, which is what they're doing on PBE right now.
I'm kind of surprised that they didn't just hit the shield and say, you know what, we're going to give Janna a harder pass in the future when we know what we want to do with Arden Sensor and that type of stuff. Because it's the item that's what's broken. More than anything else. If you look,
it's also just a free BF sword on shield, which is insanely good with the synergizing ability of Arden Sensor. We brought it back.
Yeah, I mean, she's given a BF sword with her shield since season 1. That's not a new thing.
Yeah, but her shield also didn't, give more attack speed and damage.
Yeah, and that's what the problem is, because when you look at the best performing supports, it's Janna, Soraka, Sona, and Taric. And then it is a
Leona, don't forget my girl in there.
No, it's a steep drop between Taric and Leona.
It's like a % drop.
That's like 1.5. That's pretty considerable.
How much AD does it actually give?
40? It's not quite a BF sword.
40 exactly?
But it's 40 flat AD.
Yeah.
Well, 40 flat AD is what a BF sword is.
Is it? I thought they changed. I thought it was 55, but that was 4 seasons ago, wasn't it? Before they changed the items. I live in season 4 glory days, so.
If I'm recalling correctly, season 4 was my nightmare season.
For some reason, I thought it was 45, so I was going to make the point that it was actually more than a BF sword.
No, it's not. It's 40.
But but I was wrong.
Which is still insane for a shield.
And I keep trying to rationalize different things about Arden Sensor, but what it always comes down to is that it's giving free stats, and it's a really easy way to give free stats. It's not super conditional, quickly downward scaling, free health like Locket is. It's not free damage under certain conditions like Zeke's Convergence is. It's just get a shield, get attack speed, and on-hit damage while you're at it. And that's that's just too good.
And the item build path in itself is very efficient. You're not losing too much. And the items are easy to build. So it's not like you're sitting trying to get an NLR or a BF sword or anything like that. It's very much forbidden idol or, the cheaper items that supports can very easily obtain.
I usually see 4 support bans a game now. It's unreal that we're
because what you're seeing, Lulu, Sona, Janna.
We're in the support meta.
Lulu, Sona, Janna, Soraka.
Yeah, Raka.
Taric is the only one of the top performers that makes it through right now.
I don't think it's a support meta.
Because he's melee, so he's balanced.
Right. It's very much right now is a whose bot lane wins the game. Which obviously there's going to be corner cases where maybe Zed pops off mid lane or you have a giant fed Garen top lane. But for the most part right now, it's very bot lane centric again.
And it doesn't help that Caitlyn's a lot better now.
Yeah, we can talk about Caitlyn now. It's a good transition, actually. So Caitlyn, I was at least very down on her early game just because of the huge health hit she took. And it turns out, no, the Q changes were really helping her again, on top of giving her a smoother attack animation by fixing her attack speed. So yeah, Caitlyn back in meta, although she's not as dominating as she was. She's very strong. I mean, she went from 45% to 48 or 49 now. So I mean, around 50 is where you want Caitlyn to be. I don't think you want her very much higher than that because then she's the default pick of bot lane.
Tristana is actually down to right around, just above 50%.
Arden Sensor changes hurt Tristana a lot because she doesn't itemize very well into lifesteal, just the way she builds, on top of Janna getting hit a little bit.
Good.
And Caitlyn shits all over Tristana and lane.
Yeah.
She can shove back again finally now that Q isn't doing 0 damage again.
To be expected there. But yeah, I don't know. It was Veigar is another one of the big ones there.
So there's been a build running around out of the higher elos that Froggen started about 4 patches ago, maybe 3 patches ago, where instead of building Tier or building Morellos, he was just going Moby Boots first into Lichbane. And what this build was doing was allowing Veigar to very quickly just farm and just get his item breakpoints. And with Lichbane with your Q stacking as well, you don't really need Thunderlords. You just took Storm Raiders. So your full rotation will pretty much one-shot anyone past 20 minutes, unless it's like Mundo or something. Along with the attack range, letting him farm easier, a lot of his bad matchups getting nerfed or just not being meta anymore. Talia's one of them. With the mana cost changes, she's not as strong. This is a very much, Veigar is very strong in solo queue. I don't know how much we would actually see him outside of that, but it's for sure a very easy champion to pick up and play.
Wasn't it a year ago where we saw Cloud9 break him out as a like weird counter pick at Worlds?
Yeah, a little bit. And then we also had the Reign of Veigar support when E was...
No, that was before they changed him, though.
Yeah. But the fact of the matter is that his E is still a very, very strong ability. And it just gives him so much zoning potential. And if he ever catches someone, they're dead. It's just that simple. You are their ADC and they die.
I've honestly not run into Veigar, so I can't speak to what's going on here.
He's not as popular as the other mid laners. I mean, you're going to probably see more Zeds and Oriannas than Veigars, but it wouldn't surprise me by the end of this patch if he goes to like a top 5 pick rate for solo queue specifically.
That would be nuts.
Veigar doesn't have like huge, insane outplay potential, and that seems to be the pattern of like what characters are more popular or not. Mm-hmm. He's kind of a straightforward, linear. If he stuns you, you're probably dead, and if not, then you may or may not live.
And the big thing is he's a very consistent champion. There's not a whole lot of ups and downs. Like, he doesn't need a ton of kills to be effective. He just has to hit. He's the AP version of Nasus, where if he just hits a point in the game where no one can deal with him, except the difference is you can kite Nasus. Veigar just can argue.
I say that would be nuts, but then I look at it, in Plat Plus, he's top 7. In Gold, he's top 10 pick rate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's always going to be those...
to think of because you think of Veigar and you think, okay, it's just this niche champion that a handful of people play, but that's just really not the case right now.
Yep.
And these changes have definitely helped push him, I think, towards play rate.
Base stat changes always are some of the most important to keep an eye on, and this is just as reference for future patch notes for people who want to try and get an idea of what the meta could shape out for themselves. If you see base stat changes on champions, those are usually very, very high indicators of whether or not a champion's going to be good or bad after the patch, because base stats, depending on the champion, give the most gold value. For example, like base HP, base regen, stuff like that.
Base stats are huge, man. Like, especially when you look at character classes, and you look within the same class, and you'll see that some of the strongest characters in that class have some of the highest base stats. So it you know what I mean? It's not like I don't know. It's just I feel like I don't even know where I was going with it. Honestly, I feel like I had a point maybe, but I lost it somewhere.
No, I get what you're saying. Like, for example, when back to referencing the Caitlyn changes, she got the lowest HP out of all the ADCs. And it's one of those things like, well, yeah, she's got her range advantage, but if she ever eats like a Karma Q or, God forbid, like Zyra snares her, she's going to die. But it turns out those, with Zyra not being super popular and Karma kind of still being the problem child of, well, what are we doing with her?
The funny part is I feel like those champions are really good, but only when Janna, Soraka, Sona are taken out of the... And I guess Lulu in that regard, but only when those 4 champions are gone. Again, those 4 champions are banned in almost every single game that I play now, so I felt a lot better about taking Karma.
The support meta is a lot weirder once you realize, like, yeah, you're seeing 4 bans out of there, because now it's a lot harder to just say, here's the safe support pick, right? You don't want to, like, blind pick, I don't know, Leona. That seems bad. Or even Zyra has some really awful matchups depending. I guess the safest one's probably going to be Thresh.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to be a competent... Leona's a pretty good blind pick as far as that. I mean, when we're talking about the champs that are already off the board at that point. But it's... that thunder. You guys hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it banging.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, it's perfectly beautiful here. It's like 75 and
It
blue
is.
skies.
It is storming. No, sorry. Leona, like, once we're talking, I mean, I guess Nami is pretty safe when we're talking at that point and everything, but Nami, I played Nami the other day. It did not feel good to play her at all. It just feels like, okay, I'm a really shitty version of the other. And I know a couple months ago I said, hey, play Nami. Like, this will teach you things. And now that I played her again recently, I'm like, oh, I was wrong. Don't play Nami.
Because her healing's worse than the other champions. Her CC's worse than the other champions. Her disengage is worse than the other champions.
Can't remember if I was up against Caitlyn or not, and that might have been contributing to the problems. I think I was.
Mm-hmm.
That's too bad, because I think Nami's like a strong pick, but not like in the classic way where she just dominates, but she takes like a fair bit of skill to play, but I feel like a good Nami is pretty scary.
Yeah.
And something about the slow on that auto attack is just really difficult to deal with.
It's really undervalued a lot of the time.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize they have that, and like that is kind of, to me, that ends up being the key difference maker there, is just like her it's useful, but nobody realizes they have it. Like, it's not like a really obvious animation on them. You know, it's a pretty subtle one. And so people just don't realize they have that auto attack modifier. They don't use it. So now Nami's got like a wasted ability.
Yeah, I mean, you're just giving, especially in lane, it helps set up ganks so much. Just be able to hit your ADC with your E, and then you pretty much are playing a red buff at that point for the slow setup.
It's a wasted, I mean, in that scenario, it's a wasted ability, and that was totally outside Nami's hands. It's one thing if she's putting it on herself and the player knows how to use it and everything, but the moment you cast it on someone else, like you are encouraged to, and granted, it's easy enough to cast in a fight, and then, hey, they get three bonus damage, but bonus damage attacks. But, I mean, you like Janna, comparatively, has the same thing going on with her E, except her E also has a shield, so
you don't take as much trade back damage. Yeah,
there's an additional benefit there. Nami has to use 2 abilities to do what Janna can do in 1, basically. Or Lulu, or if you want to, same thing. Like Lulu does the same thing, but it's not gated by that 3 autos only modifier rule.
I'd be so happy when all these supports go back to being terrible, like Lulu, Janna. I just don't enjoy playing against that. Again, it feels whenever they get really far ahead, there's nothing you can do. Like when Juggermog gets ahead, it's like, oh, I guess I'll just stand here and die. That's fine. I'm okay with this.
Do we... we got Azir, which none of us are going to be especially well qualified to talk about. Otherwise, we got the guy who's kind of turned into the elephant in the room for us.
I mean, I can talk Azir because I did play a lot of Azir way back when he was released and absolutely broken. But I mean, the big thing with Azir right now is we kind of underestimated his level 3 and 4 damage potential. The early damage they gave to his W soldiers is enough to give him kill pressure in a lot of lanes, similar to that of, I wouldn't say Zed per se, because Zed has execute damage, but very much in the way that he can force all-ins and just burn summoners or straight up get a kill at level 3. And that's something he really didn't have before unless the other champion was awful. On top of that, people have finally realized Nashor's Tooth is a bad item right now on him, and they're just going Morellos. I mean, that I expected just because of the change to what E he gets W. Yeah, sorry. Xin gets attack speed on his E.
So,
Azir gets attack speed on his W with 3 soldiers.
And Karma and Lulu and Janna give attack speed with their E if they have Arden Sensor.
So many attack speed buffs. But yeah, people did math on it, and essentially Morales is just giving you more bang for your buck, and as well as giving you CDR, that big CDR chunk of 20%. And I mean, now he's got a very smooth curve, and that his early goes very well into his mid game, and his late game's a little bit worse, but it's still a Azir late game where he can do tons of damage with Thunderlords. So he's jumped a ton of percentage points in terms of win rate right now, and he's up there in play rate. So, I mean, if you were an old Azir player and you dropped him because, well, he felt terrible, might be a good idea to relook at that. Maybe check out some of the high elo Azirs that are playing, check out some new builds, and give him a shot again, because he's definitely going to be around for a while, depending on what goes on with preseason.
The good news for most of us is that he's a difficult champion to play,
Yes.
so it's not like you can just flavor of the month ride Azir all the way to Diamond or something.
You can try, but then you lose games.
Or
Yeah.
you're gonna play him long enough that you actually get good at him.
Where unlike something like Veigar, which has a very simple and intuitive kit to pick up, Azir has a lot of intricacies that if you accidentally go in at the wrong time with your E, you can just die to junglers coming in and messing your day up.
See you later, Busta.
Pretty much. So Todd's got some real strong opinions on Xin Zhao. For reference, Xin Zhao's doing better in terms of win rate right now out of jungle. He's moved back up into like top 10. He's seeing about a 5% play rate. Top lane, he's gone from pretty much no play rate to about a 1% play rate, give or take, and about a 50% win rate. But go ahead and get on your soapbox, Todd, and tell us why you're not happy with the Xin Zhao changes.
I mean, look, it pretty much just, it's not that he's not performing. It's
Sure.
just that he's not Xin Zhao, dude. Like, they say that he's supposed to be this duelist character, but when you kind of look at the characters that he's, like, winning against and the characters he's losing against, he's getting out-dueled by all the other duelists. Like, regardless of whether his win rates and stuff have gone up. I mean, I know you say, like, Riven maybe, but I don't really put her in that same category. I kind of look at, like, the duelists like Fiora and Jax and Tryndamere and Master Yi, people like that, like, primarily auto-attack centric.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you have this, like, dueling defensive ability on all those characters you know, regardless, and they all work a little differently, and that's what makes them unique. But Xin Zhao's dueling defense is useless if he's not outnumbered.
See, well, and that's just it. Like, he is he's the only duelist who gets to create conditions within a team fight where he can have a duel.
Camille.
But even then, other people can jump right back into that. They
Sure.
get knocked out, but then it's not
But
like
it's the
they're
closest
locked out.
example I got, all right?
Jarvan would be almost a better comparison in that regard.
Sure.
But even then, it's not like Jarvan or Camille are immune to damage coming at them, and Xin Zhao's not immune completely, but people have to get into scary close range to Xin in order to deal that damage, and those are usually not the high damage dealers on the team, and so to be able to sort of protect himself from a lot of the high threat champions, to me, is really, really powerful.
Yeah.
Like, that is, like, a strong ability. Like, it's not that it's not powerful. It's just, I feel kind of disappointed with the direction of the character. That's all. He seems like he really lacks that top lane power now. I mean, regardless of the fact that he's improved, I mean, he was, like, horrible before top lane as it was. I don't know. I don't think he hasn't moved in a direction that I'm personally fond of, basically.
The funny part, like, if you go back up to what we were saying earlier, he was winning because his stats were better, or he was losing because you just fell behind and there was no way he was going to catch up, just because he was so stat.
Oh, well,
We've lost Dom.
So Dom's internet just dropped off, and he might be back in a second. Hello
I'm
again.
back. Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry. Because he was so stat reliant.
Yep. I mean, he did lose a fair chunk of healing, and he did lose a lot of these early game stats that top lanes and Zhao players relied on for sure. And I kind of agree to extent that when I was thinking like Xin Zhao rework, like, all right, cool, what is he gonna do? I wasn't thinking like when his W is getting this massive range. I get it because he's a spear user, makes sense. But in the theme of his kit, like, why am I able to like hit through the tanks almost to the back line when I should really just be like focusing on one player?
See, I keep finding myself wondering, should he go for the tanks? What are they going to do to him? He's going to be attacking really, really quickly. He could build in a way that he can shred tanks, and he's not going to take damage. And the tanks are kind of relying on their team to deal damage.
And that's kind of like what my biggest problem with him was. So I was watching Quas today play him on stream, and he was against like a Galio top lane, so like a super easy matchup for Zen, really. Mm-hmm. And he was really ahead, but he still felt like the best thing he could do was go full tank. He made a Tiamat, and then he went full tank items, rushed to Spirit Visage, then made a Merc Treads, and then he like a Kindle Gem, like, and what he was doing in these team fights was he was basically doing what Dom was saying, like, he would just hit whatever was close and just keep his ultimate up, and he would basically just absorb damage and get free damage on the people who couldn't fight him. Like, he basically creates this like scenario where he's a duelist, but he's like picking on like whoever's the weakest, and then like brushing off damage from everybody else. And that's just, I don't know, like,
It's kind of what he's always done, though. Like, he's done that since the dawn of time.
I mean, but yeah, like in a more manly way.
It's TLDR. Xin Zhao is not manly enough for Todd anymore.
No, dude, he's not. Like,
Despite the song they constantly referenced in the patch notes.
Right. I think part of the reason is with top lane Xin Zhao, you're losing that tank team fight potential that you would have in other team comps. Whereas in jungle, why he's probably doing a bit better is because he can just build full damage and blow people up again, or just shred the front line really quickly. Whereas top lane, you're almost forced to go tank regardless of champions you build, unless it's something like Rumble or Fiora or things that only can go damage, because if they don't, they're not effective.
yeah, like the new Xin can't get ahead enough, in my opinion, to build full damage and not fall behind at a top lane.
And we're kind of seeing that with the statistics that are coming in, where one of his really terrible matchups is Maokai, because Maokai is just out-sustaining him, and at some point Maokai takes 0 damage.
Wait, they changed Maokai. Now I can't remember. Is it his own spellcast or is it opponent spellcasts for his heal?
I'm pretty sure.
Or just all spellcasts.
It's not spellcast. It's his own, but it's on like a timer now instead of like a set number of spellcasts. So it's like a 30-second timer.
Oh no, it's each time he casts an ability or is struck by an enemy's ability, and Xin Zhao is casting a lot of abilities
all the time. Yeah, it's his main ability right now. So that hasn't changed where you're maxing W, but.
And now I wonder, like, does that count as 2? He's getting hit twice in theory. Does that count as 2?
I don't think it counts twice, but again, I don't know. I'm not super into what spells are double abilities and things like that.
It's not super critical.
I know.
It doesn't count. It doesn't.
Okay.
I do know that Anivia's does count as 2, because the initial hit before the stun, you can like hit Sivir Spell Shield with just the projectile and then stun after you knock the spell shield off. So that, I know that's a thing, but outside of that, like, meh.
Damn, that's some high skill cap level shit, dude.
Yeah.
You gotta like throw it just past her to get this spell shield.
You have to essentially proc it behind her. Yeah.
Blowing my mind here.
No, there you go. Go play Anivia. Why not? Guys, go have fun. Go play Icebird. Pretend you're Froggen.
That was like, oh, dude, I saw like an collie tip too that blew my mind recently. Apparently, if you're standing like next to a wall, like facing it, and you W, it'll actually teleport you like a small distance. So if there's a wall right there, you go over the wall. Like, what?
Yeah, they changed that when they did the mini assassin rework in the middle of season this year, where they're like, I guess we can give a collie a little something. So now she has like a mini teleport on her W.
Might get her out of trouble. But you can't.
It does a lot more than you think it does.
It's hard to sneak around with that, because then your very important W is on cooldown.
I feel like they should support that completely and like make the shroud just a little smaller, or they should remove that, because that pissed me off so much.
Yeah, I mean, Akali is very much a snowball-y stat champion, where if she's ahead, well, you're dead. If she's behind, she'll get to a point where she's ahead and you'll die.
That means she's gonna get nerfed or changed into something new.
I don't think they're gonna touch her for a while. There's too many other things they weren't worrying about, like, I don't know, Evelyn and Swain.
Yeah, what is Swain after Eve and then
Swain? So we're getting Evelyn, Champion, Swain, I believe, is the next lineup in terms of changes.
I know Aatrox is coming soon after.
Speaking of Aatrox, the buffs did nothing to him.
Aatrox again.
He didn't get moved. I know, right? Aatrox is the new Rise.
Kinda, yeah.
He's not even the new one. There's just 2 of them now.
Well, wait. What they updated Rise last year, right?
Yeah.
Or was it preseason?
No, I think it was last year.
It was it was last year. It was like mid-season 6 or something, I think.
They updated Rise last year, and they haven't reworked him this year. So Aatrox might be the new Rise, because Rise might be finally, at that point.
I love when I go to Rise, it's like, all right, here's his alpha abilities, here's the first iteration, here's the second iteration.
Isn't he still like intentionally nerfed to garbage right now?
Kind of, yeah. They're very much...
That's because he destroys pro play when he's good.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah,
I
so he
assume he'll get reworked again.
he got changed. The initial rework number 5 was 614.
The initial rework, number
Yeah.
5.
His initial rework number 5 was 614. Then they did a bunch of changes where they kept nerfing him because apparently he was really, really busted. And then he's just kind of been... And until this last patch where they got him like W ratio changes, where he's seeing a little more play again, and people are banning him now at the high elos.
I think he was still getting banned at Worlds.
Yeah, I mean he's getting play again. I don't know if we'll see him worlds-wise, but he definitely could pop up as like a niche counter pick to some specifically LeBlanc. He's always been good in the LeBlanc.
I don't want to talk about Zekes. I like the item, but there's nothing else to be said about it right now. So
I don't
why
want to
we
talk
move on
about
to-
either of those items, dude. They have taken up my whole life in this game the last couple of months.
Arden Sensor and Zekes.
We already hit Arden Sensor.
How
but-
is Zekes taking up your entire life in this game?
Because it's really good on Garen if you give it to him. The crit
And-
chance on Garen spin, dude, is insane.
But it's no more. It doesn't crit anymore, dude.
Oh, it doesn't do that anymore?
No,
do that
dude,
anymore.
I'm like way behind the times.
you're living in the old days of Zekes.
Yeah,
This
man.
is the new days where it
When
does
did-
more upfront damage.
When did that change?
Was
Was that like really recent?
When they
partway through the
reworked
season.
it a while, when they're doing support items, I think they did a passover on Zekes then. Don't quote me on that.
7.12.
It wasn't too long ago.
Sounds about right.
So I just missed it.
That's
yeah.
okay.
I guess since Todd missed it, we'll quick run it through.
Look,
Not.
never
what?
mind.
So yeah, if you did somehow miss this, now it builds out of Aegis of the Legion and Glacial Shroud, and that's what I like about it. I like that I can like buy an Aegis, and then it's like, oh, I got 3 different items I can make. And Zekes, I think, is a good item. It's given me most of what I want. And now its passive active component thing is that casting your ultimate near your ally summons a local frost storm for 10 seconds. As the storm rages, nearby enemies are slowed by 20% and your allies' attacks burn their targets for 50% bonus magic damage, over 2 seconds. And then slowing a burning enemy ignites your frost storm to deal 40 magic damage per second and slow by 40% instead for 3 seconds. So basically, if you got this thing going and your ally auto attacks them once, then it's going to do this ignite effect as well.
Yeah. So niche item.
I like it. It deals a surprising amount of damage,
I just feel like you could be building other things.
and it's not a rush.
No, I know, but like even in your your 4th slot, your 5th slot's pink wards. But I mean, like Frozen Heart or depending on champions.
I've purchased it plenty of games where I already had Frozen Heart, but
Get your Gargoyle Stone Plate Terror.
I would rather have Zekes in that situation.
I can see games where like you're just a little bit shy on damage and you just really need to pull everything that you can get.
Sure. When you're trying to blow up that like one target or even just get through the front line so you can get to the back line, I could see it.
Because it's also more like it's better the more attack speed your partner has.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, it's burn damage over 2 seconds and everything, but like you're still going to be getting more and more of those initial ticks going and everything. And so in that regard, it's like it's going to be better the later in the game it is.
So you know what?
Invites.
Here's a secondary weekly challenge. Try out Zeke's Convergence and
I
let
like
us know how that goes.
I like it a lot.
Please write into the show and let us know.
Feedback at trinityforcepodcast.com and let us know how that Zeke's Convergence on your Lulu went.
And that is how we're going to transition into some listener questions. Thanks
Alright,
for softballing that up there, boys.
No problem. I gotcha. It's what I do.
So Lucas writes, I think my lane phase is pretty good and safe, but sometimes my AD carry and I mess up and he or she ends up way behind. When mid-game comes, that person just wants to stay bot and mindlessly farm and push the wave, whereupon he or she ends up getting caught, even when the enemy gets spotted by wards. In this case, should I just stay with the team and hold their hand? Stay with the AD carry and hold their hand while they farm up, or should I help the rest of the team, which is what I'm doing right now?
Well, first off, I want to congratulate you on using the word whereupon that I have not seen in a listener question ever. So that's great English usage right there. Secondly, I mean, for the most part, it's going to depend. If your ADC is just refusing to do anything and just trying to farm up, if you're behind, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You just have to make sure that you're you're not letting that numbers advantage on the rest of the map affect your teammates too poorly. So what you're doing right now and following is probably a good idea, as long as you're leaving sufficient enough vision that ADC can kind of push out without being worried of getting ganked by like 3 people.
The hardest part about this is actually minding your own experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's what if you fall behind and they take an early tower and your AD carry is just trying to freeze and farm, which is good. Like, it's not the most efficient use of your time to be sitting down there and just soaking up experience. Like, you should be trying to go somewhere else and make something else happen. Otherwise, they know where 2 people are going to be at all times, and that's not good. But it's really easy for you to start falling like even further behind as a result of that.
Right, and then also you could be causing your other laners to fall behind depending on where you are on the map. Like, if you just go sit mid lane with your, I don't know, let's say you're playing with a Nivea or whatever, and you're just sitting there helping make sure like she doesn't get dove or whatever, you're actually putting her behind a little bit because you're leeching XP from that lane as well. So it's very important that you manage where you are, and if you're a coin support, like go pick up your coins in that wave bot lane and then rotate and get some wards up, and maybe go get your coins in mid lane, and then as the wave crashes back bot lane, just pop back down there really quick and make sure you're just keeping up on that XP.
I agree with what Santana said. You got to make sure you get some wards down in your jungle where the AD carry is going to be. Mm-hmm. They also have their own wards, so there is some onus there. But like you have to make sure you're providing at least some line or some vision through that line of scrimmage, so to speak. And then it really depends on the type of champion you're playing. If you're playing a more defensive, like the popular enchanter type support, just predict where the fights are going to be and start heading there. If nothing else, you can kind of hang out in the topside jungle, because at the very least you can quickly float to whichever side is going to be siege next or something that that's going on there. That assumes that like dragon isn't coming up in short order or anything else like that. That's just assuming like the only objectives that can be taken on the map are the towers.
Yeah, and depending on what support you're playing, go try and make a play in like your solo lane, top lane. If they're getting pushed up too, just maybe try and do a quick gank with your jungler and maybe make a 3v1 advantage up there while their bot lane's picking up the wave that just crashed in their tower.
Yeah,
try and use your numbers advantage where you can, since you're moving around and probably the other support's not as much, although that can be the reverse case sometimes as well.
I'll just add in my anecdotal evidence here and say that what I've noticed in my rank games is that even if the support follows the AD carry, if they're both overextended, usually what happens is they just both die instead. So it's pretty much not worth following your AD carry, like the AFK push to the inner turret at any point, really. If that's all they're doing, like if they just have no awareness, it's not worth staying with them because they're a liability. The
one thing you're going to want to... It sucks because you'll be behind, but the thing you got to start prioritizing at that stage is movement speed. Going to boots of mobility is going to help you get to the places where you can still make an impact way, way, way faster than anything else. So if you were, inclined to just sit on tier 1 boots or something and upgrade to a better one, later in the game or something, like you really got to prioritize the movement speed, because your job is not to sit in lane anymore. Your job is to like really be where you can contribute. Yeah.
Do we crush that question, dude?
Yeah, we did.
Boom.
ZX Prototype writes, I recently just hit Gold 3, and I'm unsure if I want to dedicate the time to try and push for Plat. I just started the fall semester at college, and I can only get at most 1 game each weekday, plus some on the weekend, depending on what I'm doing. Knowing that I went from Gold 5 to Gold 3 in about 5 weeks, but had a lot more time to play then, is it worth grinding ranked games for the next month or so?
There's always next season, right? So any time you're putting in now is going to make you a better player in the future, as long as you're actually getting something out of those games and just not mindlessly mashing your hands on the keyboard.
This sounds like he just doesn't know exactly what he wants to do with his time, honestly.
Right.
He's not sure if the time spent focused on college or what he could be doing on his weekends would be more fulfilling than hitting platinum. Honestly, I would, there's always, like Santana was saying, there's always next season, dude. Just, get your games in that you have time for, that you want to play, but don't miss out on real life over platinum.
Oh, no, it's not a big deal. Like, you're already in the tier that you're going to get your, big skin or whatever for whatever it's going to be this year. we're supposed to get a teaser soon. I mean, we got in the last 2 years this time of year, so. But yeah, I mean, really, unless you're like trying to get bragging rights with friends or whatever, there's really not a big deal to hit plat.
I mean, it'll affect your placements.
Sure.
It'll affect where you're placed next year and everything. If you get placed into plat, you're going to be very likely placed into gold.
I mean, if you're
only
if
you perform, though. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I was Diamond 1 season, and I went like 4 wins, 6 losses, and I got Gold 1. So like, you're really not guaranteed anything.
Oh yeah. Season 5, I finished that season like somewhere mid plat. I went 1-9 in my placements and started in bronze.
Whew.
So it's nothing's guaranteed if you suck as bad as I do sometimes. So yeah, I mean, if it's free time that you're not going to do anything, yeah, go ahead, jam a game or two. What's the big deal? But again, don't bother like trying to grind up late nights to like 4 a.m. when really, I mean, yeah, 5 weeks you could maybe do it, but season, is it really worth it? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, if you figure you gotta kind of win all of that 20%, it'll be a lot of work to get there. We're not saying you couldn't do it and everything, but the like everyone else said,
you can just do it.
Seems like you're out of the stuff you want to do. So, don't quit altogether. Keep playing ranked and everything, and try to have fun and make sure you're learning things. And if you see yourself starting to slide, who cares? You can drop all the way to the bottom of Gold 5, and you're still going to get your rewards, and then just stop playing at that point, or stop playing ranked at that point.
Yeah, your goal at this point is to just play to get better for next season.
Play to improve.
And in that regard, you really have nothing to lose right now.
Cool. Look at us nailing these questions.
More support stuff coming up. Uzimic writes, I main Leona support, and I feel
off the podcast now. Then
I main Leona support, and I feel very strong with her. I'm trying to smooth out my play, and I feel my itemization needs help. Currently, I try to rush Locket, Mobies, and Face of the Mountain, and then I play around the suggested items. Could you guys recommend a good standard build for Leona?
No, there's not going to be a standard build, and this goes for all your supports.
You got the 2 big ones in Moby Boots and Locket. Like, you're going to pretty much get those every single game you play just because Locket's shield is so good.
Yep.
That is the standard build, and then you just pick from there.
I personally like the Eye of the Equinox more than I like Face of the Mountain. And that's just because I like the slot efficiency. I like how much faster I end up getting 4 wards.
But support item, Locket, Mobies, that's your core, right?
Yeah.
Outside of that, everything's going to be very game dependent. Like sometimes you are going to go Face of the Mountain if you're trying to peel like a Zed off your carry per se, or you're going to go Knight's Vow because you want to make sure your hyper carry Zaya's alive. Or other games you're going to be playing frontline and you want Gargoyle Stoneplate if you can afford it after those core items. If
they have Aurelia or Jax or someone like that, and then an 80 carry not named Jhin, you desperately need a Frozen Heart in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't really tell you what to build because it's just going to end up being like a case-by-case basis at that point.
It's very much understanding what items are good in certain situations and identifying what your team needs at that point too.
And we had a challenge a couple weeks back about, paying attention during loading and all that type of stuff and everything. Like, you can start thinking through some of that stuff during loading screen. It's like, okay, I'm up against these 5 champions and everything. I need this, and this, like, critically. And anything else is just icing on the cake.
Yeah. Just identify, like, what summoner spells do they have? What can their champions do in certain situations? Just a little warm-up things as you're loading in and walking the lane.
So Camping Dragon writes, I recently played in the Cities tournament for SLG and experienced a level of fun and success in the game which I had been missing since Season 3. Since then, I have jumped on for a couple of games but haven't really been that into it. I'm feeling pretty complete in my league experience. I'm to the point where I'm even considering selling my account. Am I jumping the gun?
So, leave this off. We don't endorse selling accounts.
I would never even think about it.
Right. I mean, this is a question of, am I getting enjoyment out of the game anymore or not? And one of the things to ask yourselves is, or any of you guys who are wondering about this, is why, for this specific example, why he had so much fun at SLG. Is that because you're playing with a group of people in person? Is that just because you're playing with people in general? If you're a solo player, maybe go out and branch out and try and find like a group of people to play fives with, or even just like a duo queue partner to like kind of take the edge off. And it's fine. People move on from games all the time. But I'm with Dom. I would never sell my account unless this game is like officially getting shut down sometime.
Yeah, and then you're just trying to get in front of it.
Yeah.
Like for me, I wouldn't do it just because it's like, I put a lot of work into it. There's certainly enough money. You might not be that into it right now. Then it's okay to take a break and stop playing for a month or 3 months or 6 months or something, because you might turn around and decide, it's time to come back. Yeah, I'm going to have to learn a lot because patch changes and preseason and all that type of stuff. But taking a break from it will also mean like, hey, I'm really, really energized to do some type of competitive game, and this is the one for me.
Yeah, like last year, I took 4 months off of just straight. I didn't touch the game. I was doing other things, and eventually, it kind of came back, and I rolled back into it. And sometimes some weeks I don't play for 2-3 weeks. Some days I play like 20 games. I mean, really, it's convenient to have just like that option of like, oh, well, maybe I'll see how it is now and just jump back in.
I see that he's saying that he does say that he feels pretty complete in his league experience. I'm not necessarily saying sell the account, but it does kind of sound like maybe he's ready to move on. Maybe he wants to play other games to the side or the other. I mean, if you really need the money, then like I guess it's a possibility.
Obviously different story, but
but like if you're not really hurting for it, then it may as well sit in the closet until you have a reason to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess like Riot has written a few times, like they don't expect League of Legends to be the only game that people play, despite the fact that we have 3 of us doing a podcast right now about it.
Who've sunk probably like 10,000 hours collectively into this game or
like
more.
They know it's not going to be the only game that people play, and they like are total like they buy into that. They don't want League to be the only game that people play. Mm-hmm. They just want it to be a game that people want to come back to at some point and everything. And that's kind of why I'm like, hang on to your account, because you might go and do something else and everything, and that'll be great. You'll have a lot of fun, and then you'll think, shit, it is time to get my League on, and you're going to be really glad that you still have everything that you had previously worked toward and or invested in.
There's something about this League grind that always comes back to people. I equate it very much to Magic players or Magic the Gathering, in that I was a MTG player for a long, long time, and I sold out like 2 years ago. And every now and then I still get that really big itch of like, man, I really just want to jump back in and start grinding tournaments again. And League kind of does the same thing for me with that competitive environment where I just want to hit the solo queue ladder, whereas other games don't hold me as much as this does.
And this is the only competitive game that I play. Like I don't do multiplayer with other stuff.
I do, but again, nothing has held me for. I've been playing since season 3 now, so that was like my freshman year of college, and now we're like almost 6 years later, 7 years later.
There have definitely been games that have held me for just as long. Like I would say Counter-Strike, I played that for just as long. Some of the Quake games probably, but I feel kind of the same way Santana does. Like, there just hasn't been another game that's been competitive enough to where I feel compelled to switch completely. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much the only reason I still play League, if I'm being honest.
One of the weird things is that a lot of shooters, they get really competitive for a stretch of time, and then a new shooter eventually ends up coming out to replace it. Whether it's a competitor in the series or a new, the new title by the company and everything. And League, yes, has its competitors in the MOBA space, but it hasn't had anybody really rise up to the challenge and do what League is doing as well as League is doing it.
Yeah, like obviously Dota was around before League, and that's always like that. You have that market, and then you have the League market. But ever since, nothing's been around that's like, oh, hey, we're the new League of Legends, right? Like obviously there's that big thing about Overwatch, but again, that falls in the shooter realm, and even that's fallen off drastically since it's come out in the last year.
And I hate to see that and everything, because I wanted it to, want it to be a successful and competitive game and everything, but you can't compare it to League. Like it has so much more in common with most shooters and everything than it really does League.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're getting a lot of hey, I don't know what I'm doing with League right now. What should I do? Questions tonight, I feel.
This next one's sure to spark some stuff. So Bloody Saint writes in, What if Grievous Wounds also had a negative effect on shields? Not necessarily on shield strength, but perhaps crippling the duration. Do you think this would help keep shield creep in check without making itemization worse, since people already take Morella's, Executioner's Calling, and Ignite to deal with healing? Or would it make those items/summoners too overbearing and oppressive?
So I know this is something Riot's looking at in preseason, is adding some sort of effect that negates or takes away a portion of shielding. Whether they attach it onto something like Executioners or Grievous already, I don't know if they're going to do that, because that kind of widens the item a little too much and makes it almost a must purchase in every game, because in any game there's going to be either healing or shielding. So it almost makes it like I have to buy this if I'm an ADC, or I have to get Morellas if I'm an AP.
Honestly, is it really so bad though? Because if it's not Grievous Wounds, then it would be like just a different name for the item that would be a must buy against teams with shields. And I kind of feel like Executioners isn't prioritized enough already. So I think making it more of a priority like in the game would probably force players to like take it seriously as an item. Like there are so many games where like even people like Soraka or Vladimir or Warwick, these characters with huge amounts of healing, and people refuse to build it.
Here's a different question.
Okay.
Do we have the same problem with shields in particular if plus shield power doesn't exist?
No, because we didn't before.
And that's kind of where I keep going back to is like I think the problem is there's too much plus shield power in the game, especially because almost all of those abilities also scale off of ability power, which some of these plus shield heal power items have.
Right. And if we go back before, keystones were a thing, you really didn't have a problem with things like, Juggermaul ran around for a little bit in Season 6, but that was more of Lulu being a mid laner and oppressive as hell, more so than her, the shielding as a whole being too powerful.
I mean, and that was also a specific thing that competitive teams were running because they were so coordinated enough that they could pull off the comp. In solo queue, that was not a thing you ran into.
Yeah, and we weren't seeing that when, Janna was always good in solo queue, right? She's always been a statistically high win rate champion, but she was never an oppressive champion like she kind of is now. And that's mainly due to win speakers and Arden and everything else just stacking on top of it.
I don't know, man. Janna's been a top pick since day one.
No, I'm saying she's a top pick, but she was never like, I'm laning against Janna, or Janna's in the game, I can't lose this.
I disagree with that completely, honestly. I think Janna completely shuts down specific characters to the point where she's always been good enough to where she is that against certain team comps.
No, she's always been good as this is the de facto peel champion, but it was never Janna's picked, and now I know I can never kill a target because it was less obvious, right?
But you said the same thing as you just did, but I still disagree with it.
I don't.
So if they get rid of shield and heal power, are you still banning Janna, Soraka, Lulu, and Sona every game, or are you just banning Janna?
You weren't even banning Janna that often.
No, but I'm saying in a hypothetical situation now, because Janna still has a really, really powerful kit, and for all the reasons that
I guess I ban Janna if I have to, right? That's the only option there. But if we take away win speakers and everything else, I don't think Janna even touches any sort of ban rate at that point.
And if Janna is still permaban or something at that point and everything, that suggests that there's a problem with the champion itself, and they can fix that. Mm-hmm. But the broader issue is that we just have a whole class of champions that is overshadowing everybody else, and that's ignoring Courage of the Colossus and all kinds of other shield creep type items and everything, which I guess are problematic. But again, Locket's shield. Or Locket gets picked up just as frequently on shield heal power champions as it does on health stackers.
Oh yeah, agreed. Because AoE shield applying when speakers is really good, or Arden.
Yeah, I mean, so it's.
I mean, I don't think Arden. I think that Arden sensor being in the game is a good thing, and I think that it's finally strong enough to where, they should nerf it too much more. I think the problem is just that there isn't that counter to deal with it. Finally shield comps and stuff are strong enough to be a general strategy if that's how you want to play. So I don't think they should go back on that. They just need to do what they're already thinking about, which is adding a way to react to that. You just can't react to it well.
I'm curious to see if they're going to do anything else besides maybe some minor Janna changes before preseason, because I want to see what the environment's like without win speakers. before I'm making a judgment on anything. So I think I think that really is a big part of it.
I think Wind Speakers has long been way, way, way too strong. Like I thought it was way too strong last season. I thought it should have gotten nerfed and everything. And the champs that were abusing it like are good now too. So it's not like this isn't a new thing. I'm just surprised that it persisted as long as it has at this point.
Because it doesn't exist in the new system, right? I haven't really looked at the new runes since they got released on PvE.
There's something that does something kind of similar, but it's not.
Not as
it didn't scream Wind Speakers to me and everything. And maybe you have Wind Speakers or something similar in the new system, and that has plus shield heal power and everything. But it's not like all those other items desperately need it, especially when these abilities already still scale with ability power or health in like the really rare case.
Right. I feel like they threw that like passive on too many things that people always bought anyway, and then it just became a problem of, well, you're buying this anyway, now you get this extra benefit, and oh, just kidding, your shields for 700.
All right. Anything else? Any final words on shields? Fuck shields. You hate shields?
Yeah,
no. I mean, no. Dude. I
shields.
just on the topic of Janna though, like I really do think Janna's like a super top tier support in her role. She's always really been really strong.
Yeah.
I and like her solo queue win rate historically has, in my opinion, been ban worthy. Even if she's not like super meta at the time, I still feel like she's an okay ban.
All the stats supported that. Like there was somebody with all season 6 was like crunching the winning trends and everything right after every single patch, and was like saying who statistically the best bans should have been, even if people weren't banning them. And the example was always like, based on all the stats and everything, people should be banning Janna, but conventional wisdom says, hey, no, we're not going to waste a ban on Janna. Now, granted, we only had 6 bans during that time.
Yeah.
But like Janna, I agree. Janna has been like a really, really strong champion for a really, really long time. And it's really only this season that people are getting hip to it and saying, let's get her the fuck out of here.
But that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Good podcast.
All right. Yeah.
Are we allowed to pat ourselves on the back? Oh.
I think
we can.
Good job, team. And good job, dog, in the background.
Oh, she's up there now?
Yeah.
She was woofing. She was like, woof, woof.
She also does not like Janna.
Someone like literally just swung into the house and then left right away, it looks like. So she's very concerned about the whole situation.
I would be too if somebody just walked in my house.
Well, yeah. it's my roommate, so it's not like it's not a stranger or something, but do
you really know the people you live with?
Yeah. I mean, I think so.
All right. Well, that kind of killed my point, but all right.
Yeah. But dogs don't.
Dogs don't. Dogs forget. Dogs are like goldfish.
Unless you're my dog. What up, dogs?
We're going to edit on that. Have a good night, everybody.
Later.
Doodles.